Hello and welcome to another episode of Casual Friday. I'm here with the Duck, and as always, the show is brought to you by Woo. If you want to support us directly, links available in the description below. If you have any feedback, feel free to send it to us so we can forward it to the product team. But as always, with any exchange, do not keep any more funds than you need for trading on any given centralized platform. The whole point of leverage is to reduce your counterparty risk and or put on massive fuck-off position sizes, get liquidated and feel bad about yourself. I think the former is better than the latter, so bear that in mind. So, Don, I'm looking at the monthly time frame, and I've actually gone through the painstaking research to measure how much BTC is down. It's down 5% from the high. So I guess the logical consequence of that is we should dedicate this episode towards you apologizing for being bullish. So however you want to sort of guide that discussion, feel free. But I'm expecting a lot of contrition, apologizing, excuses in the next hour and a half. How could you do this to us?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
I feel sick, to be honest. Like, I don't know how much longevity there is in this show if I have to keep up with this moral bankruptcy.
Yeah, I mean, I left yesterday. I was on a trip, and I left at the high. What can I say? Like, it's not my fault. Is what I have to say for myself. Like, I left. Well, we're trading at pretty much 36K, and I come back to 34. I don't know what the fuck was going on while I was gone, but that's not acceptable. So I take all of that blame that you just put on me, and I put it on everyone in the market that was actually in front of their computer, because it's not okay.
Well, I'm disgusted and I don't believe you, but I guess we can look at the ruins of the market and try to come to some sort of reasonable conclusion and, find the culprit. The monthly time frame is, well, we had the monthly close since the last episode, right?
Yes.
So I also think if you're bearish, the monthly is your kind of best bet high time frame at the moment, because the weekly and the daily are sort of either neutral to good, whereas the monthly, that's your bearish ammo if you're going to swing that way. The problem is the monthly time frame is really fucking good. So I take no pleasure in making that argument. But it's in terms of levels, it's, the monthly close was below the 35K level. And so far, 3-4 days into the monthly open, we kind of rallied up. We spiked previous month's high, and we're back below the monthly level now. So I guess the first area of support on the monthly is 12K and then 6K. Is that right?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people on, like, whenever bears post something nowadays with targets of like 10, 12K, everyone just tags me on Twitter. So I see all of that garbage. But yeah, I've seen a lot of those targets being thrown around. I think in general, I mean, like you said, the monthly's at resistance. That's something that it's hard to counter trade. But even if you're like super bearish, I think anything, like anyone that seriously targets anything below 20K has completely lost their mind. And I don't think we're going to go that far. I'm still in Team Bull. I still think we're going to go up. But even if that's wrong, I think 20K is the lowest you're going to get. Because the reasons, basically. No, I mean,
because reasons.
No, I mean that it took basically the entire industry to implode for us to even go below 20K. So I'd be very, very shocked unless you see something of the magnitude of FTX blowing up. I'd be shocked if we even got to 20K, let alone beyond it. So 20K for me is iron floor. If you get a wick below it, I mean, anything there, it's great, but I'm still in team bull for now. We are at monthly resistance, but like I said in the last week's show, fuck the monthly resistance, and I'm gonna come back to. That's gonna come back to haunt me.
To be clear, as you said, fuck the monthly resistance. I'm much more loyal than you are, and also yes, much more sidelined as a result, as usual. But yeah, I don't know. I think we discussed sort of the implications of the monthly close, whereby I think it's sort of neutral because it's not some crazy rejection looking candle. It is at resistance, but in terms of how it got there, it's also coming off the back of like a 6-month breakout, right? So yes, the bearish side of the monthly is that, well, it's monthly and we close below it. Contextually, the bullish sort of, mitigating factor is that we got there on the back of a 6-month breakout. So it's not as obviously bearish as it would be, I think, under ordinary circumstances, but it's still not helpful on this time frame. So
I think the bearish mitigation factor is the most bearish thing I've ever heard. That's so cope. It's Listen, like we have mitigation factors.
I know,
here.
Man.
Oh no!
It's
What are
so
we
bad, isn't
doing?
it? It's like, this is the monthly at resistance. It closed below monthly resistance, and here's why it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just nonsensical.
Oh yeah,
The two guys who
that's
spent 6 months jerking off the monthly time frame while we weren't trading there, as soon as we get there, it's like, you know what? It's not really that much of a big deal, right? Close below,
yeah.
schmoes below, like potato, potato. But no, I think like in a very sort of self-evident way, the monthly time frame sucks, and that's the only time frame that sucks because the weekly and the daily look better.
Yeah.
So if someone's making weekly time frame bearish arguments, I'm much less inclined to agree with them. If they're making monthly time frame bearish arguments, I'm like, okay, well, this is worth taking seriously. And if you'll recall, the discussion we had surrounding the close and the subsequent price action was that if it closes below 35k on the monthly, if it then rallies into the next monthly area of resistance, which is 44 to 46, well, that's not even conservative, that's quite high up. But if it were to wick into the next relevant monthly area, having closed below it, then that would be good resistance. Now, of course, the countervailing consideration there is that what if it just doesn't wick shit, right? Like it sort of closes below and then nukes. Well, that would obviously be a bad look. But I think the weekly and the daily timeframes would print some earlier warning signals than having to wait for the monthly to close, at 28k or whatever. So
Yes.
I don't know. Is there any additional context to add on the monthly time frame beyond the sort of semi-cope that we've discussed, and that I'm going to pin on you if it fails?
No, that's pretty much it. I think in general, like the monthly is good, but the fact of the matter is that we rarely get bearish retests on the monthly time frame. We oftentimes get bullish ones, but the bearish retests just don't really play out too much. You can just basically go through the history of Bitcoin, because it's not that hard to do on a monthly time frame, and you will see that the bearish retests are just shit most of the time. So there's some evidence that like these kind of setups don't really pay. Now, I'm not a fractal kind of nerd. For me, resistance is resistance, right? But it's something to keep in mind. And like you said, with the whole, we basically had 3 months of upside, and then we had 6 months of sideways. Now we've had 1 month of upside, and with 3 days in, we have a little bit of a pullback, and people are freaking out.
It's already over. The candle's red, Don. Your fate is sealed.
And if you compare this to, like, we had the 16k right on the monthly time frame. They were that massive green candle that took us all the way to 23.
Mm-hmm.
And then we closed that resistance, right? Like you can literally see this on the chart. We closed that resistance, that cluster resistance, from July.
Yeah.
Had a nothing burger candle, and the next month was completely straight up. There was this wick, the USDC being insolvent, whatever. I don't even remember. My memory doesn't go back that far.
Yeah, that was USDC related stuff.
Yeah. But you have like a massive.
That was 15% though. Like, I agree in terms of monthly structure, but from the close to the low, that's a 15% move, which isn't trivial, right? As far as BTC goes.
But the end result is that bearish retest did nothing.
Yes. Sure.
And so we had like it's at monthly resistance, but for me, like you said, it's more neutral. But it's still, I wouldn't count this into my bullish timeframes at all. Like, if I had to make a bearish argument, it would most definitely be it's at monthly resistance, which is not good. So that's kind of like the highest time frame we got, and that's not supportive of the bull case. It's not too bearish, but it's not supportive.
Yeah. I think that's reasonably balanced. You don't disrespect the monthly gods too much, Don. I agree with you in terms of the checkered history of monthly resistance on BTC. If you look at some of the big ones or recent ones, the 6K breakdown, when we retested it, got absolutely smoked. The 14K level gave like this weird wick in 2019, if you'll remember. But then when we got there again, it got smoked. The highest close of June 2019, I remember that level very fondly, like 10.7, 10.8. We broke above that and consolidated for 2 months, and then that got smoked. So it tends to be much better for buy nukes on the monthly time frame, more so than it is sell the obvious resistance on the monthly time frame. But hey, the monthly sport, you said it yourself, Don, 20k. So there's your obvious nuke if you want it.
Yeah, in general, the reason why I say this also is because if you look back in 2020, we had a close exactly at 14k, which was the previous all-time high close, and I was like, well, because I was bullish from 10 to 14K. Basically, we closed at monthly resistance. I was like, this market basically more than doubled already. Let me be careful. Let me pull out a little bit. And then I was sitting there, seeing the market basically go all the way to 20K, missing out on quite a large portion of that month because I was coping, and I was like, monthly resistance has to do something, and it didn't. And then I had to chase back up, and at the end of the day, it didn't really matter, right? Like it still like more than doubled from there. But yeah, I've been betrayed by the monthly gods before, so I shall not fall for their shenanigans
for their
again.
tricks. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's more commentary than anyone could ever want on the monthly time frame. Let's move on to something a bit more positive, Don, because it doesn't exist on this time frame. How about the weekly? There's a good one.
Yeah, a really good one, actually.
Yeah, I think it's at least the clearest, right? So the weekly range low at 32.2K, we've closed above that now, and in doing so, on a fast-moving time frame, sort of are trading back within the large macro range, if you will, between 32 and 60-ish. So the midpoint there is, essentially the monthly range on the weekly, right? Nothing too special. It's just the weekly time frame is obviously better because the close was better, so we pick that one and ignore the bad one. That's how that works, I think. And yeah, so the good thing is, because the range is sort of multi-time frame and visible on all the time frames, you can more or less quite liberally pick the faster moving chart and still get pretty decent high time frame signals. So if the monthly, weekly, and even daily overlap, there's less risk than usual of opting for the lower time frame closes instead of having to wait like a full bloody month to get some sort of indication. I think this is a pretty good line in the sand, the 32K. I understand that 30K is the sort of more technical invalidation that, hey, at this point the whole breakout is stuffed, and it's a deviation of the large sort of 6-month range we were in from March to October or whatever. But I still prefer 32K as an invalidation for any bullish arguments, because at that point it just starts to look really shit, I think, if the weekly gets stuffed below there, because you have monthly resistance resisting, and that is enough for the weekly breakout, or rather reclaim signal, to get stuffed. And so you've got monthly resistance plus weekly failed reclaim plus retracing the breakout candle itself. I think that is kind of sufficiently shit to be a serious risk-off signal, as opposed to having to wait for, 32K is lost, and monthly, we've nuked quite significantly from the monthly now. But let me just wait until 30K is lost, and I can really be sure. I'm not sure whether that's worth it, personally. What do you think of the weekly? Because you were drawing your favorite reclaim fractal on your Wednesday live stream, so presumably you put a similar amount of emphasis on this type of construction.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like it's a nice situation because you can literally just, like you said, take the faster chart. You don't have to wait so long. 32K loss on the weekly, exactly like you said, would kind of translate to 35K on the monthly holding. So 32K has to hold on the weekly time frame. For any kind of like at least like shorter to midterm trades, right? I think in general, like the bullish case is not invalidated below 32K, but it starts looking much worse, and then you have to be much more picky with positions, in my opinion. So I'm looking at it too. I'm looking at like, can this market hold 32K right now? We just had 2 green weeks and now a nothing burger week.
It's fucking over, Don. It's red, and it spiked the previous month's high. You're just coping at this point.
The big cope, yeah.
Listen, I can run this show for like 10 minutes. Go sell all your positions, and we can continue with neutrality in mind.
No, I shall hold for now. I'm quite like, this is something that you would like to see, all things considered. Now, obviously, like I'd be happy if this was trading at 90K because I'm in position, and that's just great if you make more money. But
Very
the market,
yeah.
But the market is trading quite healthy to me. Like you get like a bunch of upside, and then you get a nothing burger candle, especially if that nothing burger candle gets people to kind of get very strong bearish views again, which for some reason seems to have been happening in the 24 hours that I've been gone, which is quite funny to me, like how fast things can change, how people can disappear from Twitter, and then you see like a 2% pull back, and then suddenly they're all back and they caught the top. It's always great to see. Much fun.
Sounds like you're jealous, Don.
Oh yeah, terribly jealous. It's always like I fucking hate missing the 1% and 2% moves. It's the worst. But yeah, that's that. Like for me, this looks quite great still on the weekly. Like that's a really bullish time frame. Obviously, it doesn't have to go up, right? Like these setups don't always play out bullishly, but from a setup perspective, this is very clean, right? Your invalidation is quite close. If you're very aggressive, I think 32K is an aggressive invalidation, but it's very close to price, right? So any positions taken here basically are relatively, I mean, they're near invalidation and therefore a little bit safer than they otherwise would be.
Yeah, you need to use careful influencer language, Don. Right?
Yeah,
like this is one of those spots. You need to say, this setup offers a high proximity to invalidation, which isn't the comment on its probability or its potential payout. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Please consult a financial advisor in your jurisdiction before trading crypto futures. Or something of that nature. I think that's the correct way of doing it.
Yes. But no, I like it. I like the weekly time frame. As long as it holds that, it looks giga bullish.
Yes.
That's the scientific term for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, straight from the textbooks.
Exactly. If that fails, it looks a little bit less bullish.
A little bit. Yeah, so that's an interesting question, right? Like, what's the magnitude of the opposite signal if this setup fails? Like, the weekly gets stuffed and it's it's below 32K or even below 30. Is it like, oh my fucking god, we fell for it, or is it like, okay, maybe we range for a bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right? And this could be cope on my end, but if we lost it, and we still have that whole ETF thing kind of looming over our heads, and it's not like that's like a sell the news event yet. I think if anything, you're gonna get, like, if it is announced that we're gonna get the ETF, we're gonna get a pump, right? That might be the pump to sell into. It's possible. But we're gonna get a pump. So for me, like I could even see myself be like, well, fuck it. I have a really good position from 27. Even if this is like we fell for it, kind of return to below the range, we're probably going to get a pump from the ETF approval that I can sell into. But that could be me coping.
You have no invalidation, basically. You've got narrative sleight of hand. Like, okay, yeah, we broke out and reclaimed 30K, send it. Okay, well, that didn't work. We still have the ETF, so send it. Yeah, I mean, okay, we don't have the ETF, and we didn't hold the range, and we broke down, but now it's so cheap, it's at monthly support. Send it. Like, fuck!
Yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing, right? And that's why you have, like, more rigorous invalidations. I mean, for me, it depends on kind of the entry, because I have a good entry, like a decent one. Technically, I was in a long trade since 16K. I opened and closed it in between a couple times, but that trade is technically still active. So I'm kind of just chilling, and the trade was, I mean, in part kind of a fundamental one. So I'm kind of okay giving it some room, especially given we have a deadline on the ETF, right? Like that's gonna be Q1 at the latest, the decisions that we're gonna get, which makes it quite comfy to just chill. But yeah, I think for any kind of new positions, anything that is a little bit more risky, 32K is a really, really good invalidation. And I mean, I could see myself close my positions too if we start losing 32K, but it's not necessarily guaranteed for me. It's like I still see a decent trade even below there. But I would obviously prefer if we just held it, because then the technicals and the kind of the news cycle would align, would make much more sense to me than just having a news cycle, because generally I don't like to just base trades on news. It's not necessarily the best.
I don't know, your Litecoin trading history suggests otherwise, Don. So.
I mean, and that worked quite well, considering that Litecoin literally has like 10 days of good price action, and the rest of the year is just completely and utter garbage. And for some reason, I've been nailing the Litecoin thing. Funnily enough, like if I just bought Solana instead of something else, I would have made much more. Could have just ignored the Litecoin trade.
And the Bitcoin trade at this rate.
And the Bitcoin trade, yeah. Just that's just how it goes. Like when you're too boomer, you can nail the trades and still make less, is how it is.
Fair enough. That's yeah, very relatable. I don't think there's anything particularly outstanding on the weekly time frame that we haven't discussed. My view is I think I'm slightly more conservative in terms of the implications of losing this reclaim or failed breakout. I'd probably be pretty bearish for the next like 2 to 6 weeks. It's like a weekly failed breakout into monthly resistance. I just probably wouldn't be able to ignore that from just a,
I mean, it's quite ugly. I do agree.
Yeah, it'd be pretty rough. But if you want some cope, given you've been really going at it during the course of this recording, if this were to fail and lose 32k, lose 30k, it would be so bearish that when we next trade above 32k, it would be so future bullish it would be so bearish that it would create a future max bullish setup. How's that? Essentially those failed breakout setups where you have the clear level of resistance and the market, it respects it at first, then you get your failed breakout, and then when it eventually gets back above the level where the failed breakout took place, those tend to be really sort of aggressive and fast-moving setups. So maybe we want it to fail, Don. Maybe it should get stuffed just so that the next setup is even better. How about that?
I like it.
the mental gymnastics on this show are really quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to reality, the weekly time frame looks fine above 32. Below 32, it starts to look pretty bad because it skews the odds towards monthly resistance doing its job. It just looks like the monthly is holding. And then below 30k on the weekly looks particularly bad because it adds even more weight to the monthly time frame bearish argument. And then at that point, the weekly breakout thesis is beyond rescuing, and it looks like a weekly failed breakout. In which case, I would personally look towards at least 24 if this weekly gets stuffed. Failed breakout on one side of the range, I'd expect to trade the double bottom on the other side of the range unless we get some weird ETF bailout type of thing. So yeah, I mean, this is the classic thing I also feel like we do on this show. Like whatever time frame has a clear prevailing bias, we spend like 30 seconds on that and then spend 20 minutes talking about the invalidation. And I know that sounds sort of cynical or whatever, but I think it's a good way to go about it, right? Especially that's the side you really need to consider. If there's a fairly self-evident signal on a given time frame, you probably don't need to overthink it too much because by definition it's self-evident. And then more of your time is probably more productively spent thinking about how it could go wrong or morph into something else, which is why it almost sounds like we're bear tarding on the weekly. But the weekly is like the best time frame for this thing. It's just worth being aware of what it looks like if it doesn't go to plan.
Yeah.
In terms of, if this awful, completely gross, inappropriate red candle turns green, or if 32k holds and we start pushing up again, where do you have weekly resistance on your chart? I've got like 45.6. I could be convinced of 42 to 44 as well, but basically 40 plus is, it starts to push into that macro range midpoint is really the next interesting weekly level. I'm wondering if you've got anything before or after that that's particularly compelling.
I don't even have that. Like,
you've
I
got
have
like
60k.
60k.
And 60k.
Okay. Yeah,
and that's
fine.
the reason why I'm that's the reason why I'm so aggressively bullish, or have been. Like, especially when we were trading at 27, 28k, where I was like, this just smells like it wants to go up, basically. And the reason for that is that for me, when you enter back into an old range, it just makes sense to target the highs unless something drastic happens. So I do see, I think 43 is a really good resistance level. I might, if we get there, I might add it to see if that makes me want to sell at all or not. But right now, for me, it's just kind of like you reclaimed the range. Don't get kind of shaken out by something dumb. And by dumb, I mean reasonable price levels on the chart.
It's dumb if it's not making your P&L go up. That seems to be the going criterion for that.
So yeah, that's kind of like for me, like we reclaimed the range. If anything, like if we start losing it again, I would be thinking otherwise. But like I just don't want to close this position, basically. Yeah, I don't need to. If it doesn't lose the range. If it starts losing the range, like you said, it's a little bit less. It's a little bit more scary. But until that happens,
hodl.
I just hodl. Yeah. But I do agree. Like, I think 43 is a really good level. One can watch, and if we kind of push into 43 this month, reject hard, I'd be selling quite aggressively too, because then it starts looking really shit. right? Because then you kind of rallied past monthly resistance, got stuffed on weekly, then you have a bearish weekly and a bearish monthly. Especially given that that would be into a hype kind of cycle, right? The ETF news, I think, would like the hype cycle for that would pick up substantially in the 40Ks.
For sure.
So if you get rejected there in the 40Ks, that would spell bad news to me. And then I'd be more than willing to sell that and see where it goes. So I think 43 might be worth to have on the chart, that kind of area as a whole. I don't have it right now because I'm a pulled card.
Yeah, understandable. I think you make a good point that if we really start to rip ahead of the ETF stuff, just in terms of mental models, even though I hate that term, I would just assume it's being priced in more than not. Like when the BlackRock announcement came out and the market initially didn't budge or give a shit, it was definitely sort of not priced in, arguably whatsoever. But if we get a rally into 40 plus on that same narrative that's been in effect since half the price, then it's pretty hard to argue that you're going to get much more upside from the actual news itself. And I think there'll be enough de-risking from both a price perspective, but also from a PTSD perspective. From participants who've seen these, CME futures and other institutional instruments in BTC's history haven't been too favorable if there's hype and momentum leading into the actual release, So I think basically the higher price goes as we approach whatever ETF deadlines, the more likely it is to be at least short to medium term sell the news event. Because I don't want to be in the same trade as those guys who kind of see the headlines for the first time, BTC spot ETF approved, the market's up double or whatever, and they just pile in long. Not the type of counterpart, those aren't my peers, basically. I disavow them. But essentially, it seems like from our weekly discussion, if you want to be bearish, there are two pretty good spots to do it. One is below 30 to 32K, where you'll have the monthly more on your side, and then the one very bullish time frame, which is the weekly, is always going to be on your side because it will have failed at that point. Or you let it rip until 44, 46, high time frame midpoint, and see if there's a sell the news late catalyst momentum trader that'll be willing to take your coins off your hands. But this kind of early to mid 30s while the reclaim is still valid is just a pretty difficult spot to be high time frame bearish, I feel like. Especially given how close invalidation is for the entire bullish thesis, you might as well wait for it. Because then at least, I think, 25K is on the table if this failed breakout turns really ugly. And so waiting those few extra percent, given the magnitude of the move that's likely to follow if the bearish signal is confirmed, probably seems worth it. And that way you also give the weekly breakout signal at least a chance to play out, right? Because if it does play out, that tends to be quite attractive. Even from our conservative discussion of where the next real high time frame weekly resistance is, there's still a lot of space until 40 plus, So I think it's worth giving that its room. On the daily time frame, I don't know what you think of this. It's a bit messy, to be honest. I don't love it. We basically pushed up.
We had a false breakout.
Yeah, exactly. So Don, you know what this means, right? The daily false breakout is going to turn into a weekly false breakout. It's going to turn into a monthly false breakout.
Could actually.
Yeah, and then
one of my favorite setups.
Over. Yeah, exactly. I'm just keeping you consistent. These kind of time frame cascades or whatever the fuck we've called them before. It's happening in front of your eyes, Don, and you're just sitting here talking instead of selling everything. I'm disgusted by your complacency. Nonetheless, the daily time frame, it came into previous week's high and pretty much the swing high from the strong couple of days that we've had. Closed above, closed below, so no acceptance through there. And it's been pulling back since. I've also, or mostly actually, been monitoring this consolidation on the 4-hour, because I think that's going to be more helpful than not. And if you look at basically, I want to get your take on this. So if you take the weekly proximity to invalidation level, the reclaimed range low at 32, and then you go on the 4-hour and take the bottom of the range, essentially, if you take the swing low, for example, at 33.2, that looks like a big area between 32.3 and 33.2 or whatever. But in the context of a weekly, multi-week trade or whatever, I think that's a pretty decent area to look to do business based on proximity to invalidation, right? So the argument will be essentially that the weekly signal is strong. The intraday timeframes are offering a dip within the context of that weekly signal. And if it starts to get really shaky and sort of liquidate people, flush out, get aggressive shorts in or whatever, and pushes into this 32.2 to 33.2 area, the proximity to invalidation on the weekly time frame is so high that if you're going to pump anywhere and you wanted a pullback when it was at whatever the wick is, 35.9, that's probably the best option you're going to get. Because anything much above that, you don't really have levels and you're just buying the consolidation, which can be fine, but if you're picky, it doesn't really fit into a nice package. Whereas anything below that just means the weekly is probably fucked and the bullish argument is in real danger. So that's at least from a trying to combine timeframes in terms of give the weekly idea its space, but also look for some sort of reasonable execution on lower timeframes to make sense of it. That's the best that I can come up with. Basically, the 4-hour range low plus the weekly level itself. That seems purely from a proximity to validation point of view a good area to do business if you're sort of sitting out this thing. Do you think that's absurd? Do you care? Are you even monitoring these timeframes? Even if you're not, does what I say make sense?
Yes, I like it. I think if you get a dip towards 32.2, that's something that you want to buy. And then if it closes below, then you can just get rid of it again. Worst comes to worst, I think like this weekly close, especially given this is going to be all on the weekend, right? Obviously it can go to zero at any point in time, right? It's just how it is. But in my mind, like the kind of worst case scenario, if you buy 32.2, is that the weekly close is going to be at 30. So you take a haircut, you can get back out of the trade. That seems like a really, really good kind of buy the dip level if you get it. I don't think we're going to get it. But if you get it, it seems like a nice kind of trade. I think we're pretty close. Like in general, like when I look at the daily time frame, right? Like what this looks like to me is basically like what we've been doing is baiting a bunch of shorts, liquidating them, and then baiting them again and again and again and again. And this kind of false breakout into nuke just reminds me of previous run-ups where you have the exact same thing happening, where you basically like you break out, you start consolidating. It looks very constructive. You break out too early, basically. People chase it up. They had bids, then they pull them up or try to market buy stuff because they're like, fuck it, I just want the position. And then the market nukes, right? And people get bearish again. But what ends up happening is just that the consolidation just continues to go and then runs again. And this can happen like 2 or 3 times where people like bet on the breakout and then the breakout doesn't happen. And then eventually it starts breaking out. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it played out in the end. But it is it's a false breakout, right? And that's not necessarily something bullish. How it gets bullish is if it tries that again, right? Like if you see another false breakout above 36, even if that gets stuffed, I would expect higher prices afterwards. And yeah, so for now, obviously not the best. We have weekly support below us, so that's not the end of the world. And also, just in general, we're trading in like still around the highs. Wasn't too aggressive of kind of like a breakout. So I wouldn't be like, oh, this wick like $1,000. A bunch of people are super trapped. It's just like it walked up, it had a little bit of a squeeze, came back down. Like I'm not too worried yet, but obviously not the greatest. So we have the daily and the weekly, the daily and the monthly not being too great, but I wouldn't say the daily is bad per se. I wouldn't say the monthly is bad per se. And then we have a really good weekly time.
But the weekly is great per se.
Yeah, I mean I think that's unambiguously great. Like the weekly time frame just looks really, really good. So we have like two time frames that are not so great, one that is great, and I think in general, like this, it just, to me, I look at this and I'm like, you're kind of lucky if you get to buy a dip. I could be completely wrong, shilling Bitcoin at the top, but then
that
again,
monthly resistance into a daily failed
yes,
breakout. You have a duck telling you to go all in.
That's how it goes.
I feel
sick. I wanted people to go in at 16K, but they didn't listen.
No.
And now it's like for me in my mental model, right? And this is where I'm coming from. And I'm saying this because then it makes a little bit more sense, like how easygoing I am about this. But for me, I'm still in the same trade from 16K, right? And I'm willing to give like my trade from 16K was basically I bought and it was like I'm probably gonna sell this at 60 to 100K, right? Now I obviously traded the bunch in between. I closed the position and opened the position twice, if I remember correctly, or 3 times even. But for me, it's the same position, and yeah, I was back then when I bought it. I was like, if we get back to 35, or like if we get back to 32, I think we're gonna go all the way. That's why I didn't target 32 as the obvious resistance, right? Like I back then, it's the monthly didn't look any different, right? And the weekly didn't look any different. And I could have just targeted the bearish retest at 35 or 32, depending on the time frame you're looking at. But back then, I was like, if we get to 35 or 32, it's probably gonna go higher. Now we are there, and I'm just being consistent, right? I'm just like, we got there. I like it shouldn't have, in my opinion, if it was bearish. So I'm just gonna hold through it and hope that I was right when I was buying at 16K, targeting higher. Could be completely wrong, and I can guarantee anyone that's listening or watching that I'm not gonna make like a loss on this trade. I'm gonna go out of this quite okay, no matter how it goes. So if that's not the case for you, you will have to manage your trade differently, right? Just always depends. At least for me, I think it makes quite a big difference mentally and in general trading wise if your entry is good or not. If your entry is shit, it's you're in much bigger trouble and it's much harder to hold. Even though technically, like you can argue, if you think like a robot that it doesn't make much of a difference, right? Your invalidation should be invalidation, blah blah blah. You don't want to give back too many gains. But in this market, in crypto, in specific, like specifically, to me, sometimes I'm like, if I have a really good entry and the market kind of does what I want it to, I give it much more room and I kind of allow the market to take more back from me than I otherwise would, just based on the fact that I feel like it's gonna go higher. And that might not be the most like scientific way to think about the market, but I think in general, just like your gut feeling does help from time to time. It's not what you should be basing your trade, like all your trades around, but when you already have like a good setup and a good entry, more often than not, I'll let my gut feeling do the rest of it. Because technically my setup is I should be long till 100K, right? So if I close before 100K, I'm disregarding my setup. But yeah, that's what my gut feeling is for.
That's what happens when you put retarded targets on things, Don. You just stay
Nice.
bound to them from the outset. But I think what you're saying
No.
is true. Like there is good entries are a luxury, but they also just afford you a lot of mental margin in terms of your trade management. Whereas if your entry sucks, the likelihood that you're over analyzing things and checking too frequently and that you're skittish in general is also higher, especially if you're allergic to the passage of time with a red PNL on your screen. Then you're going to start looking for and even hallucinating reasons to get out, and those reasons wouldn't even be on your radar if your entry were good. And again, that's not like super robotic or systematic, but neither are most people trading this shit. So
yeah,
I think it's
in general,
that's
the market is also not super robotic,
sure.
in my opinion. Like it just changes, right? Like you can have a really good market that turns to complete and utter shit in 24 hours. And that's not necessarily reasonable, right? It's just a bunch of people are trading this thing and a bunch of people are holding this thing. And if Satoshi shows up tomorrow and starts dumping coins, that's going to nuke the market no matter how good it looked, right? Yeah, so it's never as simple as, okay, there's a support, there's a resistance, and it has to go from support to resistance. There's always more to it.
Fuck you, that's how I trade. Shut up.
And there's always a little bit like there's some factors that will basically prevent that from working. Always. Like, I mean, if it just always worked, we'd all be rich, right? It doesn't always work, but the good thing is that if you have a decent a decent system, that accounts for some of these losses that you would take because something out of the ordinary is happening or the market is behaving differently.
Oh, there's no such thing as out of the ordinary, Don. It's all in the chart, bro. Haven't you studied up on crypto Twitter? But I agree. Yeah. Like, you get specific regimes which are weird. Like you get like retard FOMO momentum regime, which is just sort of insane and will lock you out if you're a high time frame, very technical retest trader. It's like, go trade the buns or something. Like this is out of your wheelhouse now. And other times you'll get the crypto degens who are just used to like low time frame trend, momentum, RSI reset type of stuff, and you enter just like a very low volatility mean reverting market, and they just eat shit on every breakout candle and breakdown candle. And then you also get instances where you just get some price insensitive buyer or seller in the market who just has to unload this clip in either direction, and it just messes up all your metrics with regard to funding and which session are the returns coming in, like Sailor T-wopping or, you know, US government machine gun selling, and that fucks up your levels. You're completely right. I mean, all of this stuff is always in the market, just to different degrees and different extents. So your system isn't always going to be 100%, especially when that kind of when there's a regime change or a different regime or someone insensitive to their execution, that'll mess with you. But as long as you can stomach it and your system is robust enough to either adapt, or it's specific enough so that you basically know when to turn it on and off, it should be manageable. But it's not this easy thing. Okay, there's this thing called the market, and there's this thing called the technical analysis. And if I apply the technical analysis to the market, I'll have all the answers at all times. But I'm not going to sell my course with that, so probably edit that bit out. So daily time frame, FUD, monthly time frame, FUD, weekly time frame based. Reasonable conclusion is that because the proximity to invalidation on the weekly is reasonably close at 32.2, if you have any interest in being long, your mission is to put on a position as close to invalidation as you can if the market reasonably offers it. And if you get invalidated, then you just flip and the whole thing is a scam and you hopefully only take a haircut. Otherwise, just give the weekly a chance to play out if you are so inclined. That's my plan at the very least, you know? Like this, I'm going to try to punt. Like yesterday I fucked around the... Was that yesterday? It was either yesterday or the day before. The nights are merging together, Don. Like on lower time frames to catch some of this shit, and it was like more or less break even, pretty shitty trading. But the overarching idea in my head is that if we start really pushing towards, or even start getting close to weekly invalidation, be that at the weekly level itself or into the range lows in this consolidation above it, I think that's one of the few well-defined areas to punt. Because if that's not it, then there's just empty space between mid-30s and up to 40 plus. And I'd rather not just be fucking sitting there paralyzed, looking for levels and coping with 15-minute momentum reset shite, if that were to happen. So if the market's going to be charitable enough to at least offer proximity invalidation or some sort of low time frame range, that's good enough to nibble at. Because I've far too many times, especially in like the early 6K portion of that breakout where it went to 14, I was just kind of sat there up until 6.6 or 6.9 being like, oh my god, well if I don't buy this now, I'll probably never be able to buy it from a high time frame trading point of view. So I think 33 to 32 is the most relevant decision point, if you will, for the market if you have any interest in trading levels. If you're someone who's a bit more chill and systematic, I also think there's room for that. That's something I try to remind myself more than anything, but also when I guess talk about these topics. It's, let's say the market is trading at like 25k, right? And we don't have any of this ETF shit, we don't have the breakout, nothing like that. Someone could quite reasonably argue that, look, I'm going to have a systematic signal that a weekly close above 32k is a long. So it doesn't matter if that closes at 32.1 or at 36.8. That signal is good enough for me to take, and I'm going to let it play out with a clear invalidation. I also think there's time and space for entries like that, essentially, because it would be really unfortunate if, let's say, this 32k reclaim sticks and it moons, and the reason that you didn't get any trades in, be it short term or positions, position trades or whatever, you stayed completely out of it because the hourly time frame didn't exactly dip to the 0.5% range that you wanted it to dip to. I feel like that would be such an unfortunate way for that to resolve, that it's worth having some sort of balance between how precise do I want to be for this entry versus how important is the signal, right? Because if the signal is dog shit or there is no high time frame signal, then you can justify being much more precise and picky with your entry. But if there's good reason to believe that the signal is strong, then that should afford you some more sort of room and margin in terms of being less precise with your entry. Like, let's say your target conservatively is even 44, 46K or whatever, which is what, like 30% away, something like that, 30, 35% away. Like, does it really matter if it pulls back to, 33.4 or 32.2? Like, it doesn't, right? But if that distinction, like if that 1, 2, 3% difference precludes you from putting on a position completely for a 30, 40, whatever percent move, I just think that the trade-off there is not that great. But that's all ranty, rambling nonsense. So I don't know what you think of. How do you balance that in your head?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much exactly like you just did it. In general, like this is what I did when we went to 28K, right? Do you remember, like on the 1st of October, we had that rally, that like one green day, that went to 28K.
Yes.
And I was like, there's not gonna be a way for me to get on this if it just keeps on going. Like, I will literally not be able to buy before 35K. And then do I buy 35K monthly resistance, right? Like, for me, I knew that I was not going to get on this if I didn't buy that. So what I did, I was literally buying into like 27.7 to 28K at that time. That turned into resistance, right? And we nuked a little bit. So I got to kind of get a better average because it's like, I still think this is going to go up. But like, that's how I often kind of trade. I look at this thing and I'm like, am I going to get an entry if this actually goes up? And I want to be bullish, right? Like, I generally want to be bullish Bitcoin. Just makes sense to me, right? I spend all my time, or I used to spend all my time, nowadays it's a little bit less. But in this market, I'd be upset if I just completely missed the bull run, especially on Bitcoin, right? So I want to be long. And whenever there is just no entry for me to be had, if it goes up, there's a good chance that I will just have to have an entry before, even if it's resistance. And it's the same here, basically, where I think you're completely right. Like, if it goes back towards those 32 to 33K levels, that's the only area you can do business in, and I think in general it makes sense to kind of establish
and not feel like a cunt. That's probably psychologically quite important as well, right? Like, imagine you're buying the breakout at 35, 36, and you're just like, you're seeing the green candles and the FOMO on Twitter making the countdown every $1,000, and you just buy that, and then it like retraces 1 to 3%. You probably feel like such a dickhead. I know, because I've done it before. Because you kind of look back and you're like, well, what the fuck am I actually doing? There are no levels here. There's no invalidation. None of the candle closes are relevant. This isn't my system. I haven't got any trend tools here. I'm just being a dick. Whereas if you have this 33, this 4-hour range low, or at least a weekly proximity to invalidation, then even if you get shafted by the market, you don't feel like a complete cunt about it. And your confidence doesn't go in the shitter. And, you can readjust your bias or flip or reassess or look for another entry. And you just feel better about it, and it's actually tradable. Because I mean, Twitter is very good at making you feel like every single move is tradable, as we've ranted on about a million times on the show. But also, like, the Twitter, like, when people overlay their tweets on the charts as well and then post them, and somehow that counts as a valid trade entry, even though it's like some vague tea leaf type of nonsense.
Yeah, one thing to that: if someone doesn't say like, "Hey, I bought," and then they put their tweets on, like a vague tweet on the chart, and they're like, "Told you so." Those are the people you really, really don't want to
pay
follow.
attention. Get ready. Yes. Wow, eye emoji. Like all this stuff. But yeah, I can't believe this is probably the longest we've spent talking about Bitcoin, but at least we've covered other topics as well. The TLDR is weekly time frame above all else. I guess that's a reasonable summary. And if you want something based on the weekly, it's going to have to either be premised on proximity to invalidation around 32.2, or if it doesn't get there, it's going to have to be contingent on the 4-hour range between 34.6, 35 to 33.3 ish. And in the grand scheme of things, the difference between, let's say, the range low at 33.3 and the weekly level is like 4, 5, 6%, depending on how you draw your stuff. That might seem like a lot if you're trading intraday, but given this could potentially be the launch pad, if you will, for a weekly time frame idea, we're talking about an invalidation of in the range of 3 to 6%. for upside of, I mean, what? At least 20, maybe more, depending on where your monthly levels are. So that's kind of the point I was trying to get across with this whole rant type of thing. The precision of your entry should bear some resemblance to the type of move that you're trying to capture and the magnitude of the signal that you're trying to capture. If the move has the potential to be fucking massive and the signal is really strong, then your requirements for precision should be lower. And it works the other way around as well. If there is no high time frame signal and the rotation you're targeting is also not great and on the smaller side of things, then the requirement for your entry to be precise goes up. What you don't want to do is get that thing arse backwards. And it's not like a binary switch, it's more of a balancing act. So the opposite of that would be if you have like a really clear high time frame signal, like 6K broke, so I think we're going to go to 3K, but unless it gives me 59999 on the perfect retest, I'm not going to sell it. That's a mismatch. And the same goes for if you're trading like a 5%, 6% range, and you're like, well, I'm right in the mid range, but it doesn't really matter because I think it's going to go to the range high. That's also a mismatch of entry precision and signal importance, if you will. So now that I've said all that, this thing is fucked, dude. Like, this thing is going to get absolutely stuffed. Proximity to invalidation, only area to do business, is just going to go from monthly resistance at 35 to monthly support at fucking 12. Fuck you. Should we talk about ETH? Any final BTC notes?
Yeah, on the daily time frame, one thing that I'm watching, like just on the daily, it's technically, like, I've just been looking at it. It's technically not even a false breakout yet. And I mean, this could be just.
Oh god, is this 34.5 or like 35K, the highest close?
I mean, in general, like if we close today above, like, I mean, 34.5 / like even above like 34.7, obviously, I mean, that's not a false breakout. It's just basically a pullback, which would actually be kind of lit.
That's such a disgusting daily level.
Yeah, I mean the level and everything is shit. The only reason why I like this so much is basically like if today's candle closes green, it's off to the races anyway.
Sure.
I think we both agree on that. Like,
sure.
I mean, if today closes green, that just looks fucking great. But even if it like just closes a tiny bit above where it is right now, it actually doesn't look that bad on the daily, which turns a really ugly looking daily into like a daily that doesn't look that bad, which has a little bit of promise in my eyes. So there's something I'm watching too. Not that it will change anything on my decision making. I don't really care about the daily too much. But I think oftentimes, and this is something that I see a lot of new traders do, people get very bearish on bearish looking candles way before they've closed, right? Because today, if this is a wick, it's a very bullish day, right? Even if it closes a tiny bit green and technically nothing happened, that's really, really bullish day, right? So, I mean, basically let this thing close. If it closes like it is right now, that's not great. That's technically a daily breakdown of sorts, or daily false breakout. But if it closes just marginally higher than where it is right now, it's actually not looking too bad. Just to kind of balance the bearishness that we had earlier when we were talking about the daily. Because
there's a lot of really good cope this stream, have you noticed?
Oh yeah,
it's A+ bearish mitigation factors. Jesus Christ, the market is like in the face of monthly resistance. Solana just doubled, all this shit, and we're like, yeah, though, bearish. The time frames, they're all made up anyway. It's a 24/7 market, so time frames aren't real. Monthly resistance isn't going to work because it hasn't worked a couple of times. The daily, it's a daily failed breakout at monthly resistance, but it doesn't matter because the weekly looks good. And hey, even if the weekly doesn't look good and continues to get stuffed, then your proximity to invalidation at 32K is so good you should punt. But even if that fails, as long as we have the ETF, it's completely fine. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, what a fucking disaster, but it's quite funny.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's actually all true, which is great.
Yeah. Also, read our newsletter, which we didn't send out this week because we suck. But if you want the really conservative, like system candle level based view without any cope nuance. Well, no, actually, there's a lot of nuance. I guess copy nuance if I put those two together. And you just want it straight, go to trletter.com. It's our free weekly newsletter. That's like a very conservative iteration of the nonsense that we bounce around here. But otherwise, I think it's quite nice to have also like the free flowing format where we can sort of bear tard and bull tard unreasonably.
Yes. I mean, that's the good thing about like actually making the videos, because if you just write stuff, you're usually much more conservative, right?
Yes.
Like you just don't wanna do, like, it's very hard to give a little bit of color when you're writing. Like, I think, in my opinion, anyway. Like,
Yeah, and for this, we can just say it was a prank. We were obviously joking. Look at how much
yes,
sarcasm there was surrounding this this specific portion of the show.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see if the daily close gets rescued. If it doesn't, let's see how the 4-hour range low does. If it doesn't, let's see how the weekly proximity validation does. And if it doesn't, well, apology stream next week from you
Yeah.
as a
I
monthly
mean,
time frame disrespecter.
the thing is, I came back at 34 100 ish.
Okay.
So I was gone from 36K, and I came back at 34.1. So
Well, are you suggesting this is some quantum market whose behavior changes depending on whether you're observing it or not?
Yes, exactly.
Got it. How helpful.
So it can only go up now. I mean, that's
Perfect.
just obvious.
I can't wait to crop that part of the show. I'm just going to do a side by side of you saying it can only go up now, and then me bear tarding about 12K, and then when we're at 26, I'll just tweet it, being like, "Reconsider your heroes."
It stays in the family.
It stays in the, yeah, for sure. ETH, Don, your favorite chart.
Oh yeah.
There's a green daily candle right now,
Dude,
so I think
the scariest part.
It's time to rotate.
It's the scariest thing for Bitcoin. No, I think. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people be euphoric every time this had a 1% daily candle, and I have not seen I have not seen such an ugly chart in a long time in crypto. And that might be me saying.
You should see my P&L curve, mate. I'll send it to you after this show.
Please do. I mean, like, look at that. Like, that's a horrendously ugly weekly chart, right? And you'd kind of like think, if you see the weekly chart, ETH that people are super depressed about it, right? Like, that's the most interesting part for me about all of this, is that you would expect people to be beyond depressed and beyond bearish on this, but for some reason, all I'm seeing on ETH is when rotate or I rotated on Twitter, in my comments, everywhere. Like, everyone wants to rotate into ETH. For me, it still doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't get it. Like, I've been saying this for, I don't know, at this point, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe more, that I just don't get rotating into ETH when you're getting a Bitcoin spot ETF. That's the whole narrative on which the market has been rallying. I don't get it. Like, at that point, like, I think ETH is too midwit to work out, but I could be completely wrong. So far, I've been right. This thing would have to rally like 30-40% to get back to where it used to be, where I started shit talking it. And I mean, we've been both on this show kind of like making the case that it makes no sense yet. I'm excited for it to kind of be the day where we say it does kind of make sense, right? But for me, that's still far away. And we have a daily, like a green daily candle, and every time I stream, people are like, "Oh, ETH is green. Should we like rotate or sell Bitcoin or whatever?" And then I look at it, and it's a 1 hour candle, and literally I look half an hour later, and it's all fully retraced. And I'm just like, I'm losing my mind.
We need Gainsey to capitulate his ETH. That's when.
Yes.
That'll be a good time, I think.
I actually think that might be a good signal. I don't know if he will, but if he does, I would.
I mean, the weekly candle is green, Don. What do you think of that?
Yes.
That's a reversal candle if ever I've seen one.
The funny thing is, like, the weekly candle on ETH is literally the same as on Bitcoin USD, right? Like, it's basically like a candle that hasn't moved. And the reason why the reason why it's not gone down is because Bitcoin hasn't moved up. I think that's the only reason why ETH BTC didn't go down. And I think if Bitcoin goes back up, you're going to see more ETH BTC losses, as in ETH will lose against Bitcoin. Just makes sense to me. I could be wrong. I could be saying this at the bottom. I've said this every single week.
Every week.
But my conviction on ETH BTC down is quite high. It's not like I have a short position on ETH. And the funny thing is, I actually have like a bunch of ETH basically stuck in NFTs, stuck in in friend tech points, stuck in whatever on a bunch of wallets. It's not like I'm not owning any ETH, but I just think from like a trading perspective, it makes zero sense. And I think the rotating that I see everywhere and everyone kind of mentioning it is way too early. Like we can talk about that towards, I think, like early December, as in like in 4 weeks, I could start seeing that makes sense. I still remember back on the last ETH BTC kind of bottom that was in December 2018, where at least temporary bottom, where it picked up around Christmas time. I think that could be the same thing here, where we get like a relief rally. Like if you look at ETH BTC 2018 in December on the weekly time frame, that's basically what I'm expecting. Like you get a little bit of a nuke into December, and I think we're gonna get a relief rally of sorts into January, and then we're gonna get more down probably for a while. But I could be wrong on the more down part afterwards. But I think in general, like if you want to rotate, it needs a little bit more time. It needs a little bit more downside, especially given we have the Bitcoin ETF narrative. And I think that could actually be the case for like 3 to 6 months, even, where we just continuously see ETH lose against Bitcoin. So yeah, that's my stance on ETH BTC. Horrendous looking chart. Horrendous sentiment. Like as in like people are way too bullish on this thing for me to even consider it, given how strong of a chart this is, as in how shit of a chart this is.
Yeah, it's like a mismatch, basically.
Yeah.
The thing is, this isn't like much of a head scratcher, and this isn't a hindsight comment because we've been talking shit about it for ages. But the thing is, the technicals have been very technical. I know that sounds like a silly thing to say, but the downtrend, certainly from October of 22, where that lower high was made. But fuck it, even if you take the bottom of March of this year, like being conservative and giving some leeway on that first portion, this has been a very, very technical downtrend the entire time. So even if you had sort of the wrong view or didn't even care about the Bitcoin ETF thing, the technicals should have kept you out of this or kept you cautious at least. But we had the 1-2 punch of narrative being entirely BTC-centric plus shitty technicals on ETH. So it was just very early. And then even when the technical argument sort of started to become palatable, I'm quite glad that this nuked through 057, because I would have looked like a complete idiot arguing that 057 is the level that really matters and this kind of garbage deviation portion isn't that great in comparison. And that's kind of what played out, right? Where when 057 broke, I barely saw any commentary about range low breakdown in ETH BTC, which is what it was for me. So either the market was just incredibly complacent about it, or my level selection was just wrong, naive, or whatever. But at the moment, I think, if anything, my conviction in 057 being a good level has gone up based on the price action. And I think that's a good... this is essentially what we spoke about for BTC, where it looks so bearish that if it gets reclaimed, it'd be super bullish. And I think that, to some extent, applies to 057. But I don't have anything here closer to 05, because the range is broken. And then the larger pullback levels, I mean, even if you're being really charitable and taking the last high before the breakout, that's down at 043. And between 057 and 043, apart from maybe the swing low, but this isn't one of those charts that's necessarily super responsive to that type of stuff, there's just nothing to be particularly excited about on the bullish side here. 057 reclaim, I can get on board and agree with you, especially if, calendar-wise, it happens to align with the times you mentioned. If it accelerates and nukes towards those larger levels, 043 or just, 04 round number, I think that's exciting. But right now, if anything, it's like the point of being most bearish from a technical perspective, because this is like seemingly the acceleration portion of the range breakdown. And that portion sucks.
Yes.
So yeah, there's only so much. And obviously there'll come a time where we talk shit about ETH BTC, and it's most likely going to reverse, and then we'll get called idiots, which is on its own a fair comment to make. But within the context of ETH BTC, it will be funny given just the duration of this downtrend. But yeah, I agree with all the other points. The sentiment mismatch is pretty massive. The arguments for rotation, unless you're really sort of the equivalent of buying out the money calls isn't particularly clear to me. And the midwit argument seems to have picked up steam, certainly in the last 1 or 2 weeks, because we have seen risk on altcoin type outperformance, but it hasn't been in ETH. So
yeah,
pretty
Solana,
tough, man.
Solana doubled and ETH didn't do shit.
Right.
And then the funny thing is, like, you saw Solana go completely ballistic and people tried to make a move happen on ETH. And that could immediately, the next 4 hours, completely fully erase that move.
That made me so bearish, because that's when I was up punting this on low time frames and getting thrown around a bit. I basically tried to fade the ETH 4-hour breakout and basically puked it at the top for roughly break even, which was fun. But it's this on the 4-hour, this 1845 level, which was the highest close all the way to the left. And I just saw the market, like ETH trying to break out. I was like, this can't be a good thing, right? Like ETH isn't allowed to break out. Like look at ETH BTC. It looks like someone was trying to force the issue to do a Solana catch-up style play. BTC wasn't really having it at the time either, and it was kind of just slowing down around that daily swing high and monthly resistance. But if we move to the ETH USD chart, this still looks a bit shitty. I mean, ETH BTC is really self-evident given what we've discussed. But like looking at ETH USD on the weekly, I mean, the good news, I guess in relative terms, is that it's closed back above the 1700 range low, which is something. But if you consider where ETH is relative to BTC, BTC kind of broke out from its 6-month range and is like 10-20% above it, something like that, 10%, let's say. Whereas for ETH to do that, it would have to get above 2K. And that alone is about 15% away, which isn't that much, but given the relative weakness, it seems like a lot. And then you add another 10 to 15% based on the breakout. This thing is really lagging behind. And I think, our favorite level, the all-time Hall of Fame 1935 weekly ETH resistance, I still think is a good level. And maybe if that aligns with ETH BTC catching up or something of that nature, that'd be cool. But absent that, this thing is just not that great, and it still seems like people are trying to force the issue as far as making this thing catch up, break out, or whatever else. I don't know if you've got any other levels or any other thoughts, maybe based on the daily breakout, the local one that we've had, or the 4-hour range. But with ETH BTC looking how it's looking, I'm going to have a really hard time caring about this thing, certainly on the long side.
Pretty much exactly the same. Like, I don't care about the ETH USD chart because I know that I'm going to make more. Like, as long as the ETH BTC chart is bearish, I'm going to make more money on Bitcoin. So, like, I don't see a point because basically, like, I don't have any USDT, USDC, whatever on the sidelines that I'm willing to deploy. Like, what I have in crypto and what I'm willing to deploy in crypto is deployed and it's in Bitcoin. So I would have to have a reason to sell my Bitcoin for ETH, right? That's kind of my thought process in general right now. Like, if I buy something else, I'm selling my Bitcoin and buying something else, right? And right now, I just don't like. Bitcoin has an ETF coming. Bitcoin just reclaimed the weekly range. I really don't want to sell my Bitcoin, right? Like, you cannot get me to sell my Bitcoin into that kind of setup. I'm just not going to let go. I'm willing to kind of consider it the moment we get a really, really good reason to do so. And that could be like ETH BTC having like a really, really good week where it kind of reclaims the breakdown. Like you said, the importance of the 0.057 level. If that gets reclaimed, I'm down to kind of reconsider my stance on ETH, because in general, like, I'm not in the camp that ETH is going to go to zero now and it's all over. I still think ETH has a really good narrative coming. I just don't think it's the time for it yet, right? So I think if ETH does something bullish, I want to have ETH. But right now, it really isn't doing anything bullish. If anything, it's much worse than I even imagined, because you've seen a bunch of, like, Bitcoin went up a lot and then went sideways, and people are bored and people are mispositioned on Bitcoin, so they gambled on altcoins, and that kind of confirmed my thesis to an extent that ETH is just not the place to be, because ETH didn't get any of it. Like, you saw a bunch of altcoins double. You saw, I mean, most of them, or like not most of them, but a good chunk of the decent ones went up like 10 to 60, 70%. Solana, like we talked about, doubled. ETH didn't do any of it. So that's kind of like confirming my thesis that ETH is just It's not right for the degens that want to gamble on altcoins, and it's not right for the conservative people, because the conservative people know that there's a good way to make money in crypto right now, and it's with Bitcoin gambling on the Bitcoin ETF, right? So you have the retards are not going to buy your ETH, because why would they? They are going to go down the risk curve. The smart people are not going to buy your ETH because they want to just take it easy, take it kind of safe, and have exposure to Bitcoin. Because what you have to also kind of know is that a lot of the funds in crypto have had a shitload of ETH exposure, and a lot of them are kind of like ETH centric more so than Bitcoin centric. And it's pretty hard to kind of tell your investors that you don't have any Bitcoin into Bitcoin spot ETF when you think about it, right? So I think a lot of kind of rotation on that front is going to go on in favor of Bitcoin for a while. They're probably going to be wrong eventually, as in ETH is going to go up, but I don't think that's going to necessarily be now. So for me, like, the dumb idiots are not going to buy ETH. The smart people are probably not going to buy ETH. And then there's really not that much left, because crypto is only consistent out of dumb and smart people. Maybe that's like, maybe we should invert the IQ curve, because it's what is, I forgot the name of what it's called, but basically
It's like a standard bell curve, right?
Exactly, bell curve. Thank you. And usually it's like the majority of people are around 100 IQ. I think in crypto, maybe the reason why you just make a bunch of money doing the dumbest and smartest shit is because we just have none of the midwits, and we just have the idiots and the super smart people. At least that's how it feels like. I read a comment on Twitter, and I'm either like, holy shit, this person is like super fucking smart, or I'm like, this is the biggest retard I've ever seen. It's very rarely that I
Yeah,
see
but Don,
someone...
you've got 4th grade reading intelligence according to Twitter, so
true.
maybe everyone comes across as a genius that in ordinary
no,
circumstances wouldn't.
The genius part is rare.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and it's not asking for a lot for a market that's like, this is the thing. It sounds contrarian being sort of not constructive on ETH, because it's generally responsible for so many of the returns in crypto. But it's not a controversial position to say, hey, this thing's been downtrending for a year. Can you at least give a tiny morsel of strength in the face of this mega downtrend plus narrative concentration around BTC, and we'll be the first in line to punt this thing? Like, if anything, the burden of proof or the onus or whatever is on the other side, where you've got the narrative is not in your favor, the technicals aren't in your favor. We're not being the sort of unreasonable ones, right? We have the conservative position of news flows plus technicals. And if you're ignoring those to future rotate into this thing, then, you know, the less conservative, more risky position is, you know, on that side of the market, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that's the scary part for the ETH holders, because it's a contrarian take to kind of take the chart for what it is. And that's terrifying.
That's true, yeah.
Because technically, like, you should just, like, technically everyone should be bearish this thing, because it literally just broke a massive range of like 2 years or 3 years. I don't even remember.
It's like 146 weeks.
Yeah, it's 900 days, so almost 3 years
Wow.
of literally range that broke down. And it didn't break down like 6 months ago. It broke down 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And now we're doing nothing. Like, it broke down 3 decently sized candles to the downside, and now it's like consolidating as Bitcoin is doing nothing. That shouldn't really get you too hyped, but for some reason it has people hyped, and that is terrifying. But we'll see how it plays out. This is gonna be a fun one, because I think like we're massively contrarian on this one. And we're not even like we're not even bearish, really. Like, I mean, we're bearish, but we're not short, right? Like, the biggest bears are just saying like, hey, let this go up first before we buy, which is a little bit of a funny one, I think. So
also, yeah, I was just as a quick clarification, I extended my time measurement tool off my screen, so it's not 100,000 weeks or whatever I said. It's 122, but I'm not sure how helpful that is. I just wanted to issue that clarification. Yeah. I also think like days. Yeah, 900 days. I think ETH BTC is also just a better proxy for the average crypto Twitter exposure to the market than BTC USD is. That might sound insane, but I truly believe it. especially given what the meta was like somewhat recently with majors having zero volatility, and it was all like on-chain memes, low cap pump and dump scams, token scams, all this other stuff. I think neither is perfect, but ETH-BTC is probably a better proxy for measuring average exposure / positioning than BTC-USD. In terms of where are people allocated? Is it just like, in Bitcoin, or is it in speculative altcoins, ETH, on-chain stuff? I still think there's a larger skew towards the riskier side of the curve, but I could be wrong there. That's just extrapolation of in one way or another. It also didn't. I mean, sentiment-wise, also there were hints there that BTC was going up, and the amount of celebration was like relatively muted. And it took 1 or 2 days before the arguments for rotation and catch-up plays started coming out. Right? Like it intuitively doesn't make a ton of sense. If this thing is the strongest thing and you have a ton of exposure to it, why would you then immediately post breakout start cheering for other stuff to catch up? It doesn't really make a ton of sense if you were positioned well for that move. What's more likely is that you weren't positioned well for the, and by you I'm using, I guess, the royal you, right? Just whatever subset we're referring to in this conversation, that you weren't positioned well for BTC USD breakout, and you're like, oh shit, well I can't breakout buy this, but then altcoin's supposed to go up more than BTC, Ether's supposed to go up more than BTC, so I'm just going to buy those, and that way I'm not late. And sitting in that trade is not fun. Some altcoins,
that's one of the worst things to do.
Yeah, no, it's awful. It's terrible. Some altcoins have been kind on that front, though. Solana is one of them. We've been talking about this for a while. I think it might have topped. It's probably an insane take, and I wouldn't be surprised by a push maybe into 50 to fill that wick if the market bounces again. But this is a pretty fucking big area for me from a technical point of view. The weekly close around 47.40 on this chart, at least. That's just like a really big level. And if you look what's left, if that is reclaimed or broken, there really isn't much until more or less a 2x at around 78.80, which was the other pre-breakdown level. And from the lows, even from the local lows, like the higher low, this thing went up 160, 170%. And we know there's a lot of, let's call them custody issues, Don, around Solana and who's holding it and their obligations in light of their holdings. And yeah, also sentiment-wise, this thing just started to dominate the feed massively, and it wasn't doing so when it was going sideways and outperforming on the BTC pair. It wasn't doing so on the initial breakout on the weekly time frame to 30. It really started to pick up in the mid 40s as a vast outperformer into this area of weekly resistance between 44 and 47. So as long as that's intact, I'm just going to assume that the up thrust trendy portion where it goes up 170% in like 6 weeks is probably over. I still think it's one of the better bets as long as it doesn't lose its breakout level. Ideally not below $30, at least on my chart. That would start to look pretty bad. But maybe that's just the range we're in for some time between 30 and 45, 46, 47. That would make more sense to me. Unless the market goes giga risk on and the Solana outperformance continues and it just blasts through 40 and goes to 80. I'm more inclined to believe that chilling out from here is more likely than a repeat of the last 3 weeks, but I could be completely wrong, and I'm going to scramble to catch a bit of it from the 50 to 80 leg if it sets up that way, but that's not my base case at the moment. What do you think? We've discussed this thing back and forth a lot. I know you didn't sort of punt it because it would have threatened your altcoin being weak thesis, but even just from a chart perspective, did you have a different opinion?
I mean, for me, I kind of like I've been saying, like, if you want to buy an altcoin, buy Solana, right? I was just like, I don't want to buy any, but if you want to buy one, Solana makes sense. Now that played out largely. I mean, I should have bought some altcoins, I guess, and should have listened to my advice of buying Solana. But yeah, I'm not as negative on this as you are. I think in general, like, it's probably gonna keep outperforming.
Send it.
I mean, outperforming other altcoins. I still think there's gonna be a time where, and this is my base case right now in general for the market, Bitcoin goes completely vertical, and you're gonna see like altcoins just struggle to keep up. So that's kind of my base case. I think there's going to be outperformers. Solana could be one of them. If I'm still of that belief that like if I wanted to buy altcoins, like Solana would be one of them. Like I'd be looking for any dip to buy this thing. Just because it's been so strong. And I think the whole like narrative, like who's holding it, is 100% correct, but I think it could lead to a bunch of people shorting this thing, and has been. Like I don't know if you saw the funding when this was going towards like 47.
Oh, it was mental. Yeah, broken.
Yeah,
Completely broken.
people just rage shorted Solana basically. And I think that's like oftentimes when you have something that is very clearly bearish, this is something that happens in crypto, right? When you have something that is very clearly bearish that is going up, you're gonna have a bunch of people basically like just rate short something because they're like, Sam's going to jail, so Solana has to go down, and then they can bet much easier on the downside from their mind, like from their perspective, and then it just squeezes like crazy. I could see this be the case. I think in general, Solana is eventually gonna kind of run out of steam and then just meander back downwards, but I wouldn't want to bet on where that is gonna be. And I think in general, like it's one of the better altcoins to bet on still, but it's mighty uncomfortable to buy this at 40. Let's be real. Like you could have bought this at 8, now it's at 40. That's a little bit of a tough one.
Which is a terrible way of thinking about it, even though
Yes.
that's how most people think about it, right?
Yes,
like
it's
your
terrible.
job is to trade the market as it is today, as opposed to what it was, 3-4 weeks ago or months, whatever. But yeah, I agree.
So I'm kind of like, the thing is like I cannot trade this. Like that's the whole gist of it. Like when I talk about this, I literally cannot trade this. I will lose money no matter what I do with this. I'm not made to trade these kind of moves. Like if I was really, and we talked about this back at that time, like when it was retesting 21, 22.
Yes.
I told you like I really want to buy it, but I mean I'm just Bitcoin centric right now, and I mean that was the last time, and the reason why I wanted to buy it was because I knew that if this was gonna bounce from that area, that there's no way I can buy it again. And we're now in this situation. This is the exact same like reason why I bought Bitcoin. Because I mean, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? I cannot buy this in clear conscience at 40, even though like it's probably still gonna outperform.
Hey, it's 39 now, so
yeah. But like that's the thing, Like I'm terrible at trading something like this, so I just don't. And I'll sit on the sidelines while this Solana goes to 100, 120, 140. I don't like the good things for me. I don't really care. Like I've gone through this so many times during my crypto kind of career that even if Solana goes to new all-time highs, the amount of cope that I'm gonna have is quite minimal because I'm just like, well, this is just not how I trade. This is not how I think about the market. I cannot do anything with this. Whatever.
You're like the Wojak mask, Don. The smiling at the front and then seething behind it. I can't do anything. Not my system. Don't care. It's fine. Also, I can't believe you have so much disrespect for the 44 to 47 resistance level, because I remember when you bought a shit ton of Sol around $30 when it was nuking that summer, and then it rallied to 40, 47. And I was screaming at you to at least risk off a little because you'd basically gone all in to play like a small bounce across the market as a whole. And you sold it and made that top. So the fact that we're back here and you have no respect for the range high. Although I guess that's a theme in this show. What do you think of monthly resistance? Don't care. Daily failed breakout? Don't care. Like, okay, great.
No, I think temporary, yeah. Temporary, you could get a pullback. You could even get a pullback towards 30. I'm just in general like inclined to believe that. Like, for example, if Bitcoin goes up now, Solana is probably not going to pull back to 30. And then whenever altcoins go again, Solana probably goes to.
Sure.
So that's kind of like
at least the levels are good, right? We can agree on that much.
Yes.
Sort of 44, like 47. Yeah, the extremity is good.
I mean, that made me a bunch of money and kind of prevented me from sitting in a position that went to $8 afterwards. So I still appreciate you like smacking some sense into me to sell 47 in August 22, because that was an excellent sell. After having bought, what was it? I think 30 or like 29 or something.
Yeah, it was this dodgy. It was the swing low weekly candle of the 19th of July was the support level, which is 26 to 28. I think you were punting punting around there. So.
Worked really well, made me some money, and then went on vacation, and basically the entire world
everything disappeared. Yeah, the Fire Nation attacked at that point. Any other outperformers on your radar? Litecoin, the halving is any day now.
I mean,
that's never going to get old.
No, I mean, Litecoin is just going to continue going down. I don't know why people...
Just wait for the next halving. It's only like 3.5 years, and there'll be a good 2 months to trade it in that period.
To that point.
It's probably going to be around longer than most of these altcoins, mate. So.
That's actually true. But like the one thing, I have one narrative for Litecoin that could kind of like make it trade better than a bunch of others, and that's that TradFi world just knows 4 coins, and that's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and ETH. Those are the only coins that exist to the TradFi world. It's the only saving grace that I have for Litecoin, that someone might be dumb enough to buy Litecoin because they're like, there's 4 coins, I can just buy all those 4 coins and be okay. Like that's the one thing that I could see. But looking at this chart, I mean, it's down only. It's funnily enough, like down only, besides like a few times, and those few times I actually have almost, like, I think I caught almost every single green candle on this chart. And there's like only like 10 green candles on this chart.
It's like saying, I'm the principal of a homeschool. Like,
yes, yes. I mean, I could have made more money on other coins, but at least, I mean, I cannot remember the last time I was wrong on Litecoin. But also, I wish I just traded anything but Litecoin.
Yes, what a crowning achievement. Yeah. Any other alts that you think are interesting? I kind of talked about a few of the outperformers, like INJ has been really strong. It's just, I don't even know what the fuck it is. It just goes up a lot.
I don't care about it. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Fair enough. RNDR was strong, and then I talked about it, and a few days later, the trend looks kind of broken. So we're just going to ignore that. TRX. Don, when can I convert you? Because I mean, just look at this thing. You've got to listen to me eventually, mate. Like,
no.
Uptrend your mother if you want uptrend. This is some baby pips / blatant manipulation price action. What's not to love?
More of the blatant manipulation and less of the baby pips. But yeah, that actually looks on the USD pair. That actually looks quite good.
Right?
But you're never gonna get me to buy TRX. Like, fuck that. Just in Sun, no thanks.
What about a contract representing TRX?
Also no.
Not acceptable. Okay.
No.
Sushi. Have you seen that candle?
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Can't believe you missed it. You're so shit at trading, dude. It was so obvious.
Yeah, I should have seen the 70% candle coming.
That's pretty good though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty mental. And it's back in the old range, but like that's one of the ones, like, I don't know, like these kind of moves I'm too dumb to trade. If anything, like if it goes sideways for 3 or 4 weeks afterwards and still kind of like outperforms other altcoins, then I'm good enough to kind of catch that. But like in general, like I'm just not an expert in, like, if something goes up 100%, there's a good chance you're not going to see me buy it. If anything, I have it before the move. After the move, it's very tough for me. There's other people that kind of, I mean, there's people on Twitter that laugh about buying this kind of stuff before and during and after. But there's also people that are actually just good at these kind of breakout trades and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, low time frame, momentum, trend stuff. Yeah. I've got a write-up somewhere on my computer which has the changes I made to my trending system. I should probably post those at some point. They're more for my benefit. But yeah, it's to do with lower time frames and trend tools that work on lower time frames, putting together lower time frame trend stuff and momentum reset signals. So finding ways to do business in the middle of nowhere. Daily open, weekly open as inflection points when the market is in the middle of nowhere. Previous days, high and low as levels, the market is in the middle of nowhere. Alt BTC, Alt ETH pairs and finding support resistance there. Correlated pullbacks in BTC and ETH, timing those with your altcoins to find support, even if it's in the middle of nowhere. Using consolidations post-breakout and marking out low time frame ranges to do business if the market's in the middle of nowhere and you don't want it to pull back to the breakout level, which would mean a full retrace, like all that type of shit. So, I mean, I've probably just said it out loud there, but I'll look for the doc and maybe post it or maybe not and forget this segment ever happened. Well, this is the thing, Don. I was going to post it when the market was at like 33, But then I thought, oh my God, well, if I'm going to post this with the pretext of, well, now that we're trending and everything looks good, here's what you need to know, that's going to be a top signal. So for the sake of the industry, I just refuse to do it. You know?
Oh, I like it. I like it. Then don't post it, please.
Yeah. I just feel like, especially given this show and how loud of a bull you are, if I start like adding gasoline to that flame, it's gonna end terribly. So for the sake of the industry and your bags, I've been very measured.
It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I don't have any other altcoins that I think are interesting or that have been on my radar. Have you?
I mean, I don't mind Aave. I don't mind.
Don't even have that on my watch list, mate.
Like,
just
I mean,
deleted DeFi 1.0 from my collective consciousness. This looks like Link a little bit pre-breakout.
Yeah, this just doesn't look bad. And it's one of the few ones. I also still think Link is not the worst in the world. I mean, it has a breakout. If you look on the weekly chart on Link USD, it had a breakout and it's literally just going sideways. I'm down for that. For me to be allocating to altcoins, right? Like I'm saying, like I like this and like that. I don't have any position in anything. For me to like altcoins, I want to see Bitcoin put like a massive, massive green dildo. And then altcoins kind of suffering on the Bitcoin chart. Like that's where, like, if that happens, I can allocate. If not, I'll just leave it. So me saying this is okay, this looks good, whatever, doesn't really mean anything if I don't put money on it. So take it with a grain of salt. But Link, Aave, Solana. I still think Bitcoin Cash is more interesting than a lot of others, but that's kind of been underperforming. So I would kind of have to reevaluate whenever I decide on kind of allocating to altcoins, whether I still want to buy that or not. I don't know yet.
Looks a bit more boring than in the past, doesn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, especially I think Bitcoin Cash would actually be like a really, really good play if they didn't keep on forking, right? Like Bitcoin Cash, and then they forked into Bitcoin Cash and BSV, and then they forked again and again and again. At some point, it's like it's too much, right?
It's fucked, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They kind of screwed themselves over. I think they would have had there would have been a really cool narrative play to be had if they didn't do this. If they kind of like. If we just had Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and no other more significant forks, then you could have played the whole
ideological positioning.
Cash, yes, exactly. And maybe Bitcoin Cash is gonna have like a comeback eventually because Bitcoin is too centralized to say.
I'd love to fade those people.
Yeah, like all of that kind of stuff. That'd be great to trade, but they kind of keep ruining it.
There are no serious sort of chains like that. Also, I'm not really sure if the argument you've made about sort of boomer portfolio allocation, that they know Bitcoin, they know ETH, BCH, Litecoin, or whatever, is that as true as it was before? I mean,
those are the ones that you can trade.
No, sure, yes, but post Bitcoin spot ETF, I don't think that'll be as true. But even before Bitcoin spot ETF, I thought the boomers at this point, instead of just like going onto their shitty brokers or Robinhood or whatever and buying those, I thought that their preferred cope method to get crypto exposure is they just buy like MicroStrategy, Riot, a bunch of these miners, Nvidia, and there's always some shitty bank making this synthetic index to them that even Coin at this point, creating this index of like real stuff as opposed to buying proxy crypto boomer coins. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's the bearish argument that you could make in. I mean, it makes it tougher for those coins. Yes.
Yeah. Also, you were fudding Coin, Don. Sorry, because I clicked on the chart and it came up. You were fudding Coin at the Pico bottom. That ugly looking weekly, and now look at it.
Oh yeah, I did.
How dare you?
Oh, it's going up. Why? Oh yeah, because the stocks went up.
They also had earnings that they beat. I think. God, imagine asking us why a stock went up. Like, what are you doing here?
I mean, the thing with Coin is that it's correlated to the S&P. So, like, the S&P went up, Coin went up. I mean, I'm generally I think Coin, if crypto does well, if Bitcoin goes up, and that's my base case, Coin is going to do well, right? I just don't like it because I don't like Coinbase. I'd like to bet on, if I think crypto goes up, I like to bet on Bitcoin. That seems pretty straightforward. And then with coin, I just like I can see it, and if this was the only exposure I could get, I would rather buy coin over Riot or other crypto miners.
You're telling me
and
you're
a lot
not
of
a
other things.
MicroStrategy bull, Don?
MicroStrategy would be the last thing I would buy, but like coin, I could see myself
Hey, it
buying.
doesn't look that bad, mate.
Oh no, it doesn't. Like people are dumb enough to buy this shit, basically. But yeah, coin makes at least sense to me, right? Like MicroStrategy, I mean, whatever. And there's a bunch of people that always get angry at me when I say like, why the fuck would anyone buy MicroStrategy? Like if you have the chance to buy Bitcoin itself, why the fuck do you buy MicroStrategy? Like I don't know. Like if you don't have the chance to buy Bitcoin yourself, then sure, whatever. But otherwise, I don't get it. Anyway, yeah, I don't like Coinbase as like a platform, and then I don't necessarily want to buy their stock. I generally like to buy stuff that I like if I can, especially in the boomer world, right? Like if I have money in the boomer world that I want to invest somewhere, I want to invest it in something that I like rather than something that I just want to speculate with. And I mean, coin would just be me speculating. I don't like any of what the fuck they're like their platforms. I just every
They've
time
been
I've
good for
used
the
them, I've
industry more
regretted them.
recently, though, from a lobbying point of view
Oh
and
yeah, I'm
a
not hating
regulatory point of view. Yeah.
on that. I just don't like basically the
You just
whole
don't like
platform.
bold people. That's what it is. I think it's becoming
Yes.
quite obvious.
Yes, I have a big problem with them.
Big problem.
But I mean, if Bitcoin goes up, this probably goes up
Sure.
as well.
And we get to
so
dump
that's
on like legacy boomers who are buying stocks. There's something cathartic about that process, isn't there?
actually true.
Sort of
Actually
soul
true.
cleansing. The same people who talk shit about crypto, then FOMO buy the top of coin, and then we dump like everything on them. That's pretty soul cleansing.
I mean, the narrative for coin is actually quite great, right? Because you can get people that really don't want to touch crypto.
Yes.
By being like, hey, you don't have to. Like, you can basically make the argument like, sell
the shovels. Yeah. You can be so smart and get all the crypto upside with none of the downside. And they're like, oh my god, yes. And then we dump on them. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and the funny
also,
thing
we
is,
are just joking. For any future current regulators, the term dump on them doesn't imply any malicious trading practices or anything like that. It's just buying and selling on the open market with no insider information from permitted jurisdictions. The S&P's gone up, so that's been helpful. Do you think that's been helpful? Do you think it has any impact when we're in this weird post-breakout consolidation phase? Because that's a bit of a monster week if you look at it right now. That's actually fucking wild, impressive. Isn't it?
Yeah. No, I think it doesn't. Like, it didn't have any impact on the last 2 days, at least looking at the chart. I mean, I wasn't home, but those are the only 2 red candles we have, man. Like, no
That's
impact
so
there.
fucking funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's good tailwind to have if this keeps going, like the S&P base, including us, maybe they get blown out. And that'd be great for my crypto holdings. But yeah, no, it's at resistance now on the monthly time frame, the S&P. And I still think it's very likely that it just kind of struggles along for a while. But it is like it
bounced off the cope level. Sorry, very quickly. This 41.30 monthly cope between the 37 and 43. That was
the level we talked about.
Yeah. Nailed it. Made $0, but hey, got hashtag timestamp.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, the happy to be wrong is actually true for once for me with S&P, because
happy to be wrong.
I'm in crypto. I want the S&P to go up because that makes crypto easier to go up. But my view is still we're gonna struggle at 4.4 ish for the S&P, and then kind of consolidate for quite a while longer. That's my base case. If that's wrong, cool. I'm down. I dig it.
Happy to be wrong is such a good meme, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I fucking love that meme. It's such a social media tactic. Like, I'm happy to be wrong. Like, in fact, I want to be wrong. Actually, you know what? Fuck this. I'm closing the position at a loss right now. That's how happy I am to be wrong. Like, it's like people take it so far. It's always makes for good. Always makes for good content. Yeah, I agree. This thing is, from a correlation point of view, is just I've stopped looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin went up. Basically, the S&P didn't, and then S&P went up, and Bitcoin didn't. It is what it is. At this point, it doesn't really matter.
And the FOMC macro shit we had recently did fuck all as well. So even that is not helpful.
Yeah, and I think in general, it is generally good if the S&P goes up for us. But it,
not in like a local tick for tick or even day for day type of way.
If you expect the daily to do whatever the S&P is doing on the daily, you have missed the point, because we've been decorrelating quite clearly lately.
In both ways.
Yes, in both ways. Like it's been shit for a while, and then it's been great for a while, and maybe we go back to it a little bit, but I think in general we're just gonna basically trade around it, so to speak. Sure. Right? Like as in, like, you're gonna get days where we just completely outperform and days where we completely underperform. The direction largely on the high time frames is probably gonna be somewhat similar. But then again, we have a few catalysts that could break that with the Bitcoin ETF, for example. Like those kind of news can break correlations for a couple of months before they come back. So yeah.
I remember there was a really funny window when we were trading really closely, and you were making BTC bets based on S&P support.
Oh, fuck.
And then S&P would mega moon and Bitcoin would do nothing. Yeah. So yeah, that was a really fun window to trade. I also loved trading the early news release window before all the automated stuff on Twitter, and before that was just like a known trade. So the S&P would basically predict the future. Like we'd get a news release. The crypto people weren't following it or wouldn't care, even though the correlation was tight. The S&P would like nuke or moon, and then crypto would do nothing for like 5 minutes, or 2 to 5 minutes, and it just literally gave you a snapshot of the future that you could trade. And that was a really fun period. I punted it once or twice, and I was like, okay, well, this is either the most absurd coincidence ever, or I should really size up on this, because it's not going to be there for a particularly long time. That's how edges go a lot of the time, right? You kind of notice something and you poke at it, and you're like, okay, is this going to disappear if I try again? And it doesn't. And you're like, okay, holy shit, this is going to get arbed pretty quickly, and I'm not going to keep risking like 0.5% on this thing. And by the time I'm done backtesting it, it's going to be gone. So I just need to shove it at that point.
Yep. When you find that kind of edge, you have to abuse it or don't use it at all.
Yes, I have zero respect for backtesters. I will say that very publicly. I mean, look, if you're running some fucking quant regression Kalman filter bullshit and it makes sense within your parameters, and even then, your backtest kind of just gives you a rough idea of how plausible an idea may be as a starting point, and then it's really the live testing, especially once you see what the live execution is like, both from a fill and fee perspective, that information is like a million times better than what a backtest could give you. But if you're one of those like discretionary punters who sometimes uses tools, other times doesn't, it's just like very loose in terms of your system, I think backtesting is just like hindsight circle jerking, and it's very much, it's not much more than that at all. I think in the same way, you could like roughly backtest an idea, and by backtest I mean fucking eyeball it to see if it plausibly makes sense. And it's kind of like a minimum threshold test. And any useful information you're going to get will be from live testing it, as opposed to the backtest itself. And the best edges don't give you that much time to backtest, forward test, fucking send it to the lab, all that type of stuff. So I think it's one of those busybody things. People love the idea that they're like working on their trading and getting better. Like those fuckers who listen to business podcasts at 2 times speed and not understanding a single or absorbing a single word of it. It's the same thing with people who just sit there and fucking backtest all day. Okay, I'm going to backtest for 3 hours, then I'm going to demo trade for 5 hours, then I'm going to watch 6 cred videos. It's like, dude, you're not doing anything. Please just start clicking,
Yeah. I 100% agree. I mean, sometimes you just got to get out there and do stuff.
Yes.
If you're like, I mean, that's in general. I think people are like trading. You have to be quick when you find stuff like this. In general, like either you're very slow or you're very quick. If you're like the person that's like, oh, let me think about this, and you have to understand it. Like something happens, and you have to be quick on the uptake. And you have to take advantage of it quickly, or you have to be so zoomed out that you don't get distracted by some random garbage in between. But a lot of people are basically exactly in the middle, where they're like, they find something, but they then kind of disregard it at first, and then other people use it, and it works. and then they're like, oh, I should be using this too, and then they start kind of like looking into it, and by the time they kind of get to it, it's way too late. So you kind of have to be like very aggressive. Like you find something new that you don't understand, or that maybe you do understand, and then you have to be very curious in how you can kind of put it to work. Or you have to be like literally like me, basically, like zooming out and then looking at the market as like a boomer and not really caring too much about a lot of the smaller intricacies. Because if you're anything but those two, there's a good chance that you're just gonna lose money. Yeah, it's just, in my opinion, it's kind of how I look at it. I know a few people that are very quick on the uptake, and I'm always impressed. Like I see something, I notice something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And I talk with someone about it, and they're like a day afterwards, they're taking advantage of it. And then me, I just be like, I just noticed it, and I'm like way too lazy, or just in general, like I just don't want to deal with it. So some people have that. Some people have the enough zoomed out mind to kind of be like ignoring a lot of the bullshit that happens in between. But
yeah, your signal to noise filter is different to probably like 98% of punters, which makes sense. But yeah, I agree in terms of you can midwit this stuff. Like you see it, but if you're too slow, 100%. It's been a really fucking long episode. Should we skip through some news very quickly and then move on with our lives?
Yes, we should.
First, as a matter of celebration, SBF guilty on all counts. Fuck him.
Oh shit! When did that happen?
Oh, last night.
Oh, that's why. I mean, I was not home.
Yeah, so that's good. Cool. Good riddance. We got scammed, and for the industry in general, it's just a really shitty, dark chapter. We're going to feel the consequences of the industry blow up for years to come. Most likely, from a regulatory point of view, we've already seen a lot of that in the last couple of years. A lot of the fallout just takes ages from a bankruptcy perspective, and also the other dominoes that fell during the quake. You know, Gemini and DCG are still suing each other all the time, and this is going to take a while to percolate. But at least, hopefully, this can act as some sort of flagpole moment that we can sort of put down and collectively move on, and price going up helps as well. But yeah, this is good news. It just sucks that we have to suffer the consequences of it for, well, it's up to now and certainly probably in the future as well. That's a rather self-explanatory one. Here's a good one for you. Total stablecoin supply growth signals increased capital inflow, analysts say.
Yep.
So the whole the outflow argument of, there's so many dollars in the ecosystem, but that amount is getting smaller and they're not being deployed or whatever. Looks like the supply growth has picked up across all the major stable coins. So people are minting them to hopefully deploy them into crypto and punt. I don't think this is one of those binary on-off signals like, okay, stablecoin net inflow equal bull market, net outflow equal bear market. But it is a decent sort of proxy measurement for risk appetite, especially if there are other data points supporting it.
Yep.
That's good.
That's a good one. I like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Should have ended on that.
Yes, we should end. Is there... Well, actually, there's a shit one, and then there's the two funny ones. Let's go with this. It's fine. Okay. We can end on two funny ones. The first is that the CFTC says most whistleblower tips in 2023 involved crypto. So this is how I'm going to make money, Don. I'm just going to fucking snitch on all of you. You're going first, and then I'm just going to systematically go through my following list, and this is how I make it.
You're going to tell them that I'm not a duck. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Whistleblowers who tip the agency to financial crimes have submitted a total of 1,530 tips in 2023. Bro, I could do that in a week.
Yes.
Let me cook. But yeah, it's given 2021, 2022 and the fallout and all the fraud being unveiled at once. And also just the fact that when market conditions are shit, people just start pocket watching really aggressively. Like if market conditions are great, like ZachXBT doesn't really have a job, right? Because everyone's kind of making money and they're too busy on that and can ignore someone else using corruptible means to do so. But if everyone is suffering and the volatility is there, there's nothing to do. That's when you start the witch hunts and pocket watching. So yeah, stay tuned for, if I suddenly disappear, just know that I'm in WITSEC from snitching on all of you. Any comment there as a?
I mean, I love it.
You're gonna plead the fifth, which you don't have as a non-American, but whatever.
Oh fuck. No, I mean, there's not that much for me, for you to snitch on me. I think. I hope.
You think? You
But-
hope? Yes.
But yeah.
But this is what real edge looks like, right?
I mean,
Like,
that's edge, dude.
that's real edge.
You just gotta make your fortune. Just imagine that. Like you just go and you just make a shitload of money just snitching on all the crypto. I mean, I'm down.
Bro, this is
I'm
so
down to use it.
tempting. Like,
Like it's there's a lot of people that need to be put away. You're not doing something poor. Like it's just. I mean,
listen,
it's
if I
just better for
disappear, I've
everyone.
either been disappeared as a result of making this joke, or I've actually gone for it and been wildly successful. So, for our friends, colleagues, peers, and ops listening, I am joking. Unless I'm not, but I am joking. Maybe until I disappear. Then you'll have to guess. Anyway, next one. Crypto exchange Bitrex's US shutdown approved at bankruptcy court. I know this is just the US arm, but it's just crazy to see Bitrex basically become irrelevant. And this might come as a shock to some of our newer listeners, but Bitrex used to be what Binance is now. And it was probably even had more. Well, on the alt front, you could argue
Poloniex also had some.
Yeah, you're right. It was Bitrex and Polo, but this is kind of like a top 1, top 2 exchange for early crypto punters. Certainly on the altcoin front, Bitrex and Polo is just where you would go, and this is before Binance was even a thing, really. And it's just, you know, I think some strategic mistakes were made along the way. By a wallet I controlled. No, sorry, that just came up as a pasta. The strategic mistake was that it's this recurring theme that if you're a business with a US facing angle or whatever, and you try to play the compliance game at all, you just get fucked. You give away all your competitive advantage, and the reg arbors just eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it reminds me of this anecdote that it's better to just steal a bike and ask the Lord for forgiveness than pray for one. And it seems like the offshore crypto reg arb strategy is the same. Like, fuck compliance. We're going to run it up. We're going to make mega money, and then we're going to hire all the SEC revolving door lawyers to defend us. And hopefully we come out net positive. It's just crazy to see how much history has evolved since you and I joined in active capacity, because a lot of the home names, Genesis and Bittrex and Poloniex and FTX and all these other places that used to be sort of staples are just fucking gone. And don't even get me started on altcoins, mate, because that's
and
changed.
We used to trade is like the landscape is very different.
For sure.
Nowadays.
So yeah, there's that trip down memory lane. Long episode. Again, if you've sat through this somehow, leave a like on this video. We really appreciate it. Leave a comment with your feedback. Thank you to Woo for supporting the show. Links available in the description below. If you want to try some punts or just give us product, UI, UX, listings feedback, we'll happily take that on board. Hope you all have an excellent weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.